Hello, and welcome to another creative coding video. This is the first of a new series which we will call Back to Basics. And we'll start with a very simple concept. So today we'll be looking just at lines and circles, and we'll also introduce the idea of rotation. But if you are enthusiastic and want to go back to the original course, it's all online for free. The course we've followed is this one, Creative Coding for Kids. I'll post the link. It's not just for kids, it's for grown-ups, and it's been tested over 2-3 years now with people of all ages, and it's a series of bite-sized little projects which are practical, so they really encourage you to have a go. They're very easy to read, there's not many words on a page, and they work through from the very first ideas of getting your code into, onto the website, logging in, working with shapes, coordinates, randomness, and progressing on to more interesting ideas like loops within loops and different color models. And then level 3 has some more advanced ideas, which aren't too difficult actually, and are really pleasing if you do stick with working through those projects. Those are there, and I'll post the link. And if you prefer printed paper, the same course pretty much is also available as a book if you want to kind of support this work through that way. Great. So just a reminder of how to log in. We use this website called Open Processing. When you first use it, you'll be asked to kind of create an account. So you create an account with your email and a password, and you log in. And the first thing you'll do is create a sketch. You may or may not already have sketches. If you're new to it, you won't have any. I've got quite a few from the previous videos, as you can see. So let's create a brand new sketch. We click on this button called Create a Sketch. Great, and when you first create a sketch, you're set up with a page that looks like this. This is where we code in this sort of box. It's written some code for us already just to kind of get going, but we won't use that. We will delete the code that's already there in this way. So we'll leave that outer bit of writing and the same there. And we're going to make our coding easier by using something called Simple.js. It's like an extension or a plugin which simplifies how we use coding to create interesting designs. So we, on the right hand side with our sketch, we go here, and if you lose it, if you kind of forget where it is, it's just here. You click those 3 dots and click on Libraries. There, Show All, and you should see Simple.js, and you turn it on like this. That's off, and then that's on. Then we can I can increase the text size so we can all see what we're typing. That's it. So in the setup section, we're going to use the simple library like this. That gets things all set up in a simplified way, which means we have to worry less and do a lot less writing and coding. It sets some sensible defaults and gives us some really nice useful things that are already written for us. Great, so that sets up the code ready for us to go. And what we want to do today is explore using rotation to make interesting patterns. We have done lines and circles before. We've done them lots, in fact. It's lines and circles are probably the most used shapes that we've done before. And we'll kind of remind ourselves how to do that. Let's look at the idea behind what we're trying to do today. So on this page, you can see this grid, which is a canvas on which we draw, and it's 800 across and 600 down, so it's a bit of a rectangle. And on this we can draw shapes, circles, triangles, lines, dots, and so on. This is our canvas. And in the past we've done lots of interesting things on this canvas. We have, for example, drawn circles or lines like I've done here. And if I show you those lines individually, so here's that line, and I can move it around a little bit. Move it back to where it was. And this is a circle, and again I can move that around, and I'm just going to place it there. What we're going to do is to draw just a simple arrangement of shapes like a line and a circle, maybe even a triangle, and then repeat doing that, but between each repetition we're going to rotate the canvas. I'm going to rotate it like this, so you can see that when I rotate the canvas, the shape, the pattern, what I've drawn moves. Now if I actually rotate the world view and then redraw the same pattern like this, I get an interesting arrangement. And if I do it again and again and again and again, you can see that if I carried on going around a full circle, I might get an interesting design emerging, particularly if these circles and lines were in different places. This one is forming some kind of curve here and a nice grid style kind of arrangement there. This is forming some really interesting pattern with slightly overlapping circles. Now that's the core idea, just drawing the same arrangement but rotating the world, as it were, between each kind of print that we do. That's what we're going to do. So that's the simple idea, and all it needs is just simple shapes like lines and circles and triangles. You can stick to just circles or stick to just lines if you like, or we can easily mix them. What we're going to do is, well actually no, we'll work through it slowly. So let's start coding this kind of idea. So let's draw a line first. The simplest thing we can do. Let's say line from 100 to, let's say, 400, 300. Let's just see the effect of that. And that should draw a line from this coordinate 100, 100 to 400, 300. What does that look like? 100, 100 is here, and 400, 300 is here. So you should draw a line like this from there to there. Let's see if that is what happens. Yep, that is what happens. Great. Now we could write code to kind of draw another line and another line, but we're not going to do that. We're going to rotate the kind of the universe, the world in which we're painting, and we do that using the rotate instruction. And let's say we're rotating 30 degrees, and then we can repeat drawing the line and to see what happens. So we're drawing a line, we're rotating the world, and then we're drawing the line again. Now what happened there? Well, what happened is that the rotation center is here at the top left of the canvas. Let's go to our sketch. The rotation center is here. So rotations are happening in this direction. We want to rotate around the center of the canvas. So rotations go around this point, like this, not around this point. So what we do is we translate the center to 400, 300, which is the middle of the canvas. It's almost a shame that it wasn't there originally, but that's That's how this is set up. So we do that by using the translate instruction. Translate 400, 300, and we'll put a comment there to remind us what we're doing. Move origin to 400, 300, middle of the canvas. We'll just say that, to canvas center. Let's try running the code now. There, so it's rotated around that center, and if we did some more, if we repeated that a few times in the code using copy and paste, let's do that a few times, you can see that we can start to get some kind of radial design. Now we don't want to be writing lots and lots of code for lots and lots of lines. We want to get the computer to do that for us. So we use a loop. So a loop is done with the for instruction, which sounds a bit odd, doesn't it? But it starts a counter. Let's say var counter. Starts it from 0 equals 0. Does a test to see if it should continue. We'll put a question mark there. And at every repetition, we can do something like increase the counter by 1. And the test to continue, we can say keep going until the counter, as long as the counter is less than or equal to, or is less than 10, for example. So this will go, the counter will go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Counter is less than 10. So 0 to 9 is 10 repetitions. And inside these curly brackets is the repeated code. So we can draw a line here. In fact, I can copy and paste what I did before. There. So I rotate and draw a line. Do that 10 times. In fact, let me draw that closer to the origin. There you go. Now that's not right in the middle, is it? Have I made an error where I moved it? Yes, I did. It should be 400, 300. It's a good way to spot that. There you go. That's interesting, isn't it? We want to go from 0 to 360. So I can say that's an angle step. Step size. So let's call it angle step. We haven't defined that yet. So we create an angle increment, angle increment, var angle step, and let's say we want to go up in 10 degrees every time. So that's angle step, which is 10 degrees, and in our loop, we're going to rotate by 10 degrees every time. And we can count actually, we can say angle is 0. We want the angle to be increasing until it's just below 360, or we keep increasing as long as we're below 360, and we increase by the angle step. Now if that sounds a bit complicated, let's draw a sketch to kind of work out what we're doing. So we want to work around this center of rotation, and we want to go a full circle, and we are going in regular steps, and that step size, that angle, we've called it angle step, and it could be 10 degrees. So it could be 10 degrees there. Let's say 10. Now we keep increasing, so we start angle the loop counter at 0, and then we keep increasing it by 10, this angle step. So then it will be, next time it will be 10, then 20, then 30, 40, all the way around, and we keep repeating until, as long as it's less than 360 degrees. So the angle is the loop counter, starts at 0, increases at regular intervals, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, all the way up to, and it'll keep going all the way as long as it's less than 360, and the increase is by angle step. So that's what we're doing with our loop. So there it is, the angle step is how much we're increasing the angle by here. Angle starts at 0, keeps increasing as long as it's less than 360 degrees, which is a full circle. So let's see if that works. Should work. Yep, that's pretty effective as it is. Now, that was really simple code that we wrote, really simple. All we've done is move the center of rotation to the middle of the canvas, and we've got a very simple loop which counts the angles from 0 to 360, increasing by a step size, and all we're doing is just drawing a line and rotating the kind of the world around us every time we do that, and the effect is quite stark. I mean, that itself I think is quite a nice design, and we could just stop there and say that's end of lesson, but we will carry on. And you can see the effect of changing the step size. So if we go up in 30 degrees, the lines are further apart, and if we go in a smaller size like 5 degrees, they're much more close together like that. Great. So now that we've got that basic idea of rotating this canvas, the world, and repeatedly drawing a pattern on it, a simple shape, we can now start having some fun. So let's choose actually let's draw a circle to that. Let's just add a circle. Let's say it's at 100, 100, and its size, I don't know, 20, just to see the effect. So it will be a line and a circle that's being drawn repeatedly. There. So you can start to see the possibilities from just this simple mechanism of drawing a line in a circle, rotating the canvas, doing it again, rotating, doing it again, rotating. And notice we're drawing the line in the circle at the same coordinates, but the canvas underneath has been rotated every time we go around this loop. Right, so now let's randomize the line a little bit. So let's pick the start and end points of the line at random. So random coordinates. So let's pick x1 to be random, a random number between, say, 0 and 200, and then we can have a similar one for y1. So x1 and y1 are now random numbers, and we can do the same thing for, let's call it x2 and y2. What are we doing here? So here's our center of rotation, and what we're going to do is we're going to pick a random point between 0 and 200, which will be somewhere in this box. So 0 to 200 and 0 to 200 in this direction, and we're going to pick a random point there and a random point there. I mean, it could be there and there. So x1, y1, and another random point could be here, and that could be x2, y2. That's what we're doing by picking random numbers for x1, y1, x2, y2, and we can use those coordinates to draw shapes. So we could draw a line between those two, or we could choose one and draw a circle at that point, or if we had a third pair of coordinates, x3, y3, we could perhaps draw a triangle. So there's some options there. But the key point here is that we're picking random points. And inside now the loop, I'm going to use not 10 but x1, y1, x2, y2 to draw a line. Now notice how we choose these random numbers outside the loop. That means we pick them once and then we keep using them. It's not changing inside this loop. Let's run that. Okay, that's interesting. Let's try again. Wow. That's interesting too. And you can see that the line has been drawn from x1, y1 to x2, y2, 2 random points, and then we've repeated that line around that center as we rotate by, what was it, 10 degrees every time. Was it 10 degrees? No, it's 5 degrees actually. Now they all seem to have this kind of empty bit in the middle, and the reason for that is that we've limited ourselves to picking the start and end to be in this right hand box. If we said we were going to pick x1 and y1 and x2 and y2 not between 0 and 200 but say from minus 200 to 200, the line could be anywhere like this or like this or like this. It wouldn't be limited to that top right kind of quadrant, that square. So let's change our code to do that. So we'll say minus 200. Let's run that. They're much more kind of overlapping and crisscrossing now. That's interesting. So these are quite nice designs on their own. Let's make the line a bit thinner so we can see more of the detail, and we can do that with a stroke weight. Stroke weight, you'll have come across this before if you've done the earlier videos. So the default width of the line is 2 and we're making it 1 to make it a bit thinner. There you go, look at that. There's a lot of detail there in the middle, isn't there? And it's amazing, isn't it? Just this simple idea of drawing one line repeatedly, rotated round an origin, creates this really interesting designs. Really nice. So again, we could stop there and say, yep, that's good enough for today's lesson. That's really, really interesting. But we're going to press on just a little bit. And I'm going to introduce another shape, maybe a triangle or a circle, and maybe some colour. So let me let me kind of come up with a third pair of random variables. Let's call them x3, y3. And instead of drawing a line, let me draw a circle. So I'm going to fill a circle with a colour, red, green, blue. So 200 red, 0 green, 200 blue. That'll be kind of a yellowish colour. If you're not familiar with how we pick colours, we can just say fill, I don't know, yellow like that, or red, or green. In fact, let's try that, yellow. And we'll draw a circle at x1, x2 of size 50. So we're drawing that line and this circle. And we're reusing that coordinate there, so you should draw it at the end of that line. There. That should draw it at the end of the line. quite it covers the pattern a little bit, so maybe we can think about either a smaller circle or a more transparent circle. So with colours we can use names like that, or we can use red, green, blue light values. So you'll know that from an earlier video, if you do go back and have a look, that colour is mixed with red, green and blue lights. It's how our displays are made, with tiny little pixels made of red, green and blue lights, and by mixing red, green and blue we get colours, and it gives you finer control over the colour you want. So if we say 0, 200, 0, 200, that's 200 worth of red, no green, and 200 worth of blue, and it can go up to 255. So this should give us a kind of a yellowy colour. And the fourth number we can choose is like a see-throughness, a translucency. Again, go back to an earlier video where we just explore this idea on its own. Oh, it wasn't it wasn't yellow, it was a kind of a purpley colour, but now we can see through it, which makes for a more interesting design. In fact, we can make the stroke, the black line, more kind of see-through as well. So we can say stroke 0, 100, 200, 80, just some colours I've picked. The last one is the see-throughness, and that can go up to 255. So both of these will be very see-through. Let's try that. In fact, let's do it for, that's the stroke that's going around the circle. Let's also pick a stroke for the black line. So this one is, let's make that 200, 0, that's just pure red, and we'll make that 80. Let's see what that looks like. Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? In fact, I'm going to change now from that line to a triangle. So triangle needs 3 coordinates for the 3 corners: x1, y1, x2, y2, x3, y3. Oops, I made a mistake somewhere there. I didn't set the fill for the triangle. So I'm making the triangle red. I'm making its outline also red, but slightly less see-through. They're both very see-through anyway. Let's see what that looks like. Okay. I think that's quite dense. I'm going to reduce the angle step to 30 degrees. Oh, that's nice, isn't it? That's kind of simple but effective design. That's really nice. If you repeat it, it'll be different different patterns emerging, and of course you can add your own extra lines and extra circles if you want. You can pick your own. So we can easily add another one just at the end there and give it a different colour. Let's see, 100, and we can choose a different combination of these. In fact, we don't even need to use the X and Y's in the right order. Let's say that's X1, X2, Y1, Y3 even. Which one haven't we used? X3. So we've used X1, X2, Y1, Y2. Let's see what happens here. Interesting triangles emerging there. But it's the fact that this is just simple shapes, triangles and circles, repeatedly drawn around a centre. That's what makes the pattern emerge. So I'm going to delete that because I think that was a little bit too much on the picture, kind of crowding it a little bit. So we can stop there for the first one. I think that's quite nice in terms of creating design. Some of these are really nice, aren't they? So we'll save that, and just a reminder of how to save things. You click the save button, give it a name. I'll call this YouTube Back to Basics. Let's call it Back to basics rotation 1. Then you click submit and that saves the sketch and it saves the code you've done, and this link now has a number and you can give that to somebody else and they'll be able to see your work in the code and the images that your code makes. So that's nice as a kind of illustration of that really nice idea. We're going to carry on a little bit more, just to kind of push this idea to just a little bit more kind of sophistication. So let's go back to our sketch where we like to think and draw out ideas, and we're going to stick with our center here around which we rotate. Let me pick a different color to draw with. Now this time I'm not going to use circles, triangles. I'm going to stick with lines, but I'm going to not just draw random lines. I'm going to arrange maybe 2 or 3 in a certain way. So I might pick 3 points here, here and here, and I might draw a line like that. And if I repeat this, rotating the canvas by a small amount every time, I might end up with this sort of pattern. And if I have a 4th point, or reuse some of those coordinates to make a 4th point, let's say here, I might end up with an interesting, I hope, design. So let's see how, again, simple idea of just drawing lines, rotated around the canvas, see if that creates interesting designs for us. And we can keep the code we had, we just need to remove the circle and triangle and just stick with lines. So let's go back to our code. So talking through the code again, just to kind of remind ourselves about what it does. The setup section here sets things up for us, and we've used simple with the simple.js library to simplify the environment for us and help us code in a less kind of fussy way. It takes a lot of the kind of hard work away from us. We set a stroke weight so we have thin lines. Translate the canvas to the center so the rotation point is at the middle now rather than the top left. The angle step, which is the amount by which we rotate the world every time, is 30 degrees, so it's not too small but not too big. In fact, I'm going to make it small, make it 5 degrees. And here we pick some random numbers and we call them x1, y1, x2, y2, x3, y3. We could just call them a, b, c, d, e, it doesn't really matter. And then we use a loop to repeatedly rotate the canvas by 5 degrees now, and we keep doing that until we approach 360 and are just under it. So we keep repeating the loop as long as the angle is less than 360, which is a way of going all the way around the circle effectively. Now previously we were drawing triangles and circles, so I'm going to delete all that and start again. So we want to keep the rotate instruction, and now I'm going to draw a line from x1, y1, x2, y2. I'm going to draw a line from another combination, let's say x1, y1. Now because I've chosen x1, y1, x1, y1 the same here, it means the lines will be connected. Let's see, x3, y3. Let's see why that is the case. Correct that there first. Let me pick a different colour. If this is my x1, y1, and this is my x2, y2 and x3, y3, 1, 2, 3. If I'm first drawing a line from x1, y1 to x2, y2, the line goes like this. If I then draw a line from x1, y1 to x3, y3, it starts at the same place and goes to the other point. That's why they joined here. And if we wanted an extension from here, we would have to start at x3, y3 and go to another point if we wanted all those lines to be connected. So let's draw a third line. Let's go from x2, y2, which is the end of the first line, so it's connected to that one, and go in a different direction. Let's call it minus x3 minus y3, just to see what happens. It'll go in the opposite direction. Let's run that code. Wow, that's interesting, isn't it? So it's much more overlapping, drawing 3 lines. If I comment one of these out just to see the effect of 2 lines, it's simpler, isn't it? It's just 2 lines being drawn. They're connected at the corner, and repeating that going around. There you go, you can see there, one line goes out up to there, so one line goes from there to there, and there's the corner, and then there's the second line, and it's different every time I run it because it's random, the points are random. So that's with 2 lines. If I had a third line, if I uncomment it, there should be more going on. That's quite nice. So we're not using circles and triangles now, we're just using... That is really nice, isn't it? Wow. I feel like saving that. Really nice. So let's introduce some colour into this. Let's say the first line is stroke 0, red, green, so fairly blue and see-through-ish. Because it's a good rule of thumb when you're drawing lots of detail on top of each other, if you use translucency, then it brings out more of the detail, doesn't oversaturate the design. So let's make this one a different colour to the first one. The first one was bluey, this one's red, and this one can be another colour. Was it slightly purple, was it? Let's try that. Wow. I'm going to thicken those lines a bit now. Let's call them stroke weight 2, just to thicken them up a bit. Yeah. So you can kind of experiment with this yourself. You can constrain some of those numbers that we kind of use to pick a random number from the range. You can change the ranges. You can change the size of the step that we go around. So if I increase that to a bigger number, you can see that the spacing is sometimes helps to create a nice pattern and sometimes doesn't. The smaller the number, the more steps there are, like this. And you can experiment with the colours as well. You can change them. You can make them less or more translucent. You could even perhaps use randomized numbers randomized colours if you want. You could use one of those numbers that we picked, like x2, as part of the red, green, blue values. So something like that, for example. Let's see what that does. Introduces a certain unpredictability to the colours. That's quite nice. So we'll keep that there, and we'll stop there for this video, because we just wanted to illustrate this idea of using very simple shapes combined with the idea of rotating the canvas underneath us to create a repetitive pattern, and where the overlapping creates interesting effects like this. So I'll save this, not as the same, oops, I've saved it over the previous one. I should have saved it as a separate one. Don't worry, I'll create separate sketches for you, and we'll post those in the YouTube video so you can have a look yourselves. So yeah, have a go yourselves. This was the first Back to Basics video, so we're going back to simple ideas, and the next video I think will build on this idea of crisscrossing shapes, again keeping things simple. So have fun, explore, try changing things yourselves. That's really the important thing, because if you have a go yourself, you'll get a feel for how things work, and it's the experience that's really important when you're learning to code, not how many books you've read or how many videos you've watched. It's how much time you've spent experimenting and playing yourselves. See you next time. Bye.